The last elevator goes down at 8:47 p.m. And Walter Briggs knows this the way he knows everything about the 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower. Not from a schedule, not from a memo, but from 2 years of arriving at 9 p.m. and leaving at 5 a.m. and listening to the building breathe in the specific way that buildings breathe when the people who own them have gone home. He is 56 years old. He has been cleaning offices for 11 years. Before that, 22 years as an electrician. Until the specific combination of a back injury and a work dispute and an economy that does not wait for people to recover from injuries had reduced him to the specific calculation of what was available. He arrives at the 42nd floor at 9:14 p.m. on a Tuesday in October, 14 minutes later than usual, because the elevator on the South Bank was out of service and the North Bank was busy. And he comes through the fire door with his cart and begins with the fire office, working inward toward the central hub where the executive suite is. He is pushing his cart past the glass-walled conference room, the founder's room with the long table and the view of the city, when he hears the voices. This is not unusual. Late workers, people finishing a meeting. Walter has heard many conversations on this floor, none of which he has retained because they were not his to retain. But he hears through the glass that is not fully soundproofed 3 words that stop him. The words are, pension fund exposure. Walter Briggs stops. His hand is on the cart. He is in the hallway. He is invisible, not literally, but in the functional way of spent 2 years being invisible on this floor. Because the people on this floor do not see the person pushing the cart any more than they see the cart itself. He listens. He hears over the next 22 minutes a plan, specific, structured, already partially in motion. The CEO of Hargrove Capital Management, Gerald Whitmore, is explaining to 2 other men a structure involving the pension funds of 2 municipal worker unions, whose assets Hargrove Capital manages, a series of fee arrangements that redirect a portion of those assets into entities controlled by Whitmore through a chain of intermediary companies, and a regulatory filing strategy designed to make the redirection appear consistent with the management agreement when it is not. $40 million, not all at once, across 18 months, in amounts small enough to avoid the specific reporting thresholds that would trigger automatic scrutiny. Walter Briggs does not have a background in finance. He has a background in electrical work and 11 years of cleaning offices. What he has from 11 years of cleaning offices is a significant passive accumulation of understanding about how financial firms operate. He understands what he is hearing. He also understands, in the specific practical way of someone who has spent his adult life in situations where the power differential between himself and the people around him was not abstract, what it means that he has heard it. He pushes his cart. He continues down the hallway. He does not stop moving when he is around the corner out of sight. He stops. He takes his phone from his cleaning cart utility pocket. He opens the voice memo app that came with the phone his daughter insisted he get 2 years ago. He presses record. He goes back to the hallway adjacent to the founder's room. He positions himself at the supply closet, cleaning supplies needing restocking, a routine task against the wall of the conference room. He cleans the supply closet. He listens. The phone records. He goes home at 5 a.m. He looks up his pension documents. He finds the name of the management firm. He finds it is not Hargrove Capital. He sits with this for a moment with the specific relief of someone who has been handed a conflict of interest and discovered it does not apply to them, and then continues. He looks up the municipal worker unions that Gerald Whitmore mentioned. He finds both of them. He finds their pension management agreements. He finds Hargrove Capital Management on both agreements. He sits at his kitchen table at 6 a.m. with the pension documents of approximately 47,000 municipal workers on his laptop screen and his phone recording from the previous evening in his hand. And he thinks about what he is going to do with this. He is not naive. He has spent 56 years not being naive, and the specific not naivety of someone who has spent that time in the economic position Walter Briggs has occupied includes a very clear understanding of what happens to people who report things that powerful people do not want reported. He has seen it. He also knows 47,000 people are counting on those pension funds. He makes coffee. He sits at the table. He makes a decision. He does not make it dramatically. He makes it the way he makes most decisions, by considering what is true and what is right and what is possible, and by arriving at the conclusion that is most consistent with all 3, even when the consistency is uncomfortable. He calls his daughter. Maya Briggs answers on the second ring. It is 7 a.m. She has the specific quality of attentiveness that Walter recognizes as his own. filtered through her mother's directness and her own 29 years of being Maya. He tells her enough that he heard something he was not supposed to hear, that he recorded it, that it is significant, and that he needs help understanding what to do with it. How significant, she says. $40 million, he says. $40 million, he says. Pension money, municipal workers, a silenced dad. Are you safe? He thinks about the 22 minutes in the hallway, the supply closet, the way he moved, the specific practiced invisibility of 2 years on that floor. Yes, he says. Emma, sure? Okay, Maya says. I need to make a call. Don't talk to anyone else until I call you back. She calls back in 40 minutes. Professor Ada as Nwasu, it turns out, has been studying Hargrove Capital Management for 14 months as part of a broader research project on fee disclosure irregularities in municipal pension management. She has been building a regulatory complaint with insufficient evidence. She has been waiting for a piece of evidence that would make the complaint actionable. Tell your father, Professor Nwasu says, through Maya, to please not delete anything, to make 3 copies of the recording on 3 different media, and to meet me this afternoon. Professor Ada as Nwasu is 44 years old and has the specific professional demeanor of someone who has spent 20 years in rooms where important decisions are made and has learned to be precisely as present as the situation requires. She meets Walter and Maya at the university at 2 p.m. She plays the recording. She listens to the full 22 minutes without speaking, with a legal pad beside her on which she writes nothing. When the recording ends, she sits with it for a moment. She asks about his position in the building, his routine, the sight lines from the hallway to the conference room. She asks about the voices. How certain is he about the identification of Whitmore's voice, Carter's voice, the third voice he does not recognize? Walter answers each question with the specific precision of someone who has spent 56 years describing things accurately because inaccuracy in electrical work costs you. When it finishes, Professor Nwosu says, this recording, combined with the documentary pattern I have assembled over 40 months, is sufficient to support a formal complaint to the SEC and the state financial regulatory body. I want to be honest with you about what that means. It will take time. It will be investigated. There is also a real risk that the process will be difficult for you personally. What are my options? You can submit anonymously. The SEC's Whistleblower program has anonymous provisions. You would be protected from direct retaliation, and the recording can be submitted without your name attached. She pauses, or you can submit with your name. The Whistleblower program provides financial awards, typically 15 to 30% of the sanctions collected. Walter looks at Professor Nwasu. He looks at Maya. He thinks about 47,000 people and their pensions. Anonymous first, he says. We see what happens. The 43 days between the submission, the first visible consequence, are the specific kind of long that Walter Briggs has learned to navigate. Not dramatic, not urgent, but sustained. He goes to work. He goes to the 42nd floor at 9 p.m. and leaves at 5 a.m. and cleans with the same methodical attention he has always brought. He sees Gerald Whitmore twice in those 43 days, both times from the hallway, through glass, in the specific one-sided familiarity of someone who has spent 2 years in the same building as a person who does not know they exist. He does not change anything. This is the hardest part, not performing normalcy, because his normalcy is genuine, but managing the weight of knowing something that has not yet become visible. Maya calls every Sunday, and also on the Wednesdays in between, which is new. Professor Nwasu communicates through Maya. The SEC's Whistleblower Office has received the submission. The state regulatory body has been notified. There are early indications of investigative activity. On the 43rd day, Walter arrives at the 42nd floor at 9 p.m. and finds a notice on the Hargrove Capital Management door. This office is temporarily closed pending regulatory review. All inquiries should be directed to the building management. He reads the notice, he reads it once, he pushes his cart past it and cleans the hallway with the same methodical attention he has always brought to the hallway. He takes out his phone. He calls Maya. It happened, he says. The SEC's investigation of Hargrove Capital Management, which becomes public 7 weeks after the regulatory closure, reveals something that Walter Briggs' recording documented, and that neither he nor Professor Nwasu nor the SEC investigators had initially understood the full scope of. The $40 million was not the primary fraud. It was the most recent iteration of it. The scheme had begun 11 years ago with a previous set of pension clients, a private sector union, whose assets Hargrove had managed for 6 years before the union replaced them in what the union had described as a routine competitive review. A junior compliance analyst 7 years ago had flagged something in the fee structure, and the firm had, in the specific way of institutions managing inconvenient internal discoveries, restructured rather than addressed the issue. The analyst, Priya Mehta, who had subsequently left the firm, is contacted by the SEC investigation. She provides documents she retained when she left. The documents extend the evidentiary record back 7 years. 11 years, 3 iterations of the scheme, approximately $112 million across the full period. Walter hears about this from Maya, who hears it from Professor Nwosu. He is sitting in his kitchen at 6:30 a.m., having just come off his shift. $112 million. He thinks about the 47,000 municipal workers. He thinks about the private sector union before them. He thinks about the word iteration, the specific quality of a scheme that runs until it is interrupted and then restarts somewhere else. He thinks about a Tuesday evening in October and an elevator that was out of service on the South Bank and 14 extra minutes that put him on the floor 14 minutes later than usual. He thinks if it hadn't been the South elevator. He thinks if it had been any other night. He thinks about how many other nights there were in 11 years when someone might have been in that hallway and was not. The SEC's Whistleblower Award notification arrives 11 months after Walter's submission. The award is 17% of the sanctions collected from the regulatory action against Hargrove Capital Management, the largest in the state regulatory body's history and among the significant enforcement actions at the federal level for the relevant category of violation. 17% of the sanctions is, when Walter reads the number, a figure he reads twice. He calls Maya. She comes over. She reads the letter. She does not say anything for a long moment. "Dad," she says. "I know," he says. They sit at the kitchen table with the letter between them, quiet in the specific way of people who have been working towards something for 11 months and have now arrived at it. "What are you going to do?" Maya says. "Emma going to pay for your mother's care properly," he says. His wife, Denise, has been in a memory care facility for 3 years, and Emma going to keep cleaning, he says. Not the same company. Not Hargrove's building, but I know how to do this work. Emma good at it. I don't know what he'd be if I stopped. Maya looks at him. You could stop. I know, Emma choosing not to. She nods. She understands this, once she has had the moment to get there. The building management position, she says. Have you thought about that? Professor Nwosu had mentioned a facilities supervisor position. Not a cleaning position, but a management one, requiring exactly the combination of physical plant expertise and systematic attention that Walter has been building for 33 years. I applied last week, he says. They offered me the job on Monday. Maya looks at him. When were you going to tell me? I am telling you. Now, along with the other thing. She looks at the letter. You knew about the award when you applied. Yes, you applied anyway. Yes, because I want to earn the job, not because I need the money. Those are different reasons and they produce different kinds of work. 14 months after a Tuesday in October, Walter Briggs takes the elevator to the 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower at 9 a.m. Not p.m. a.m. because he is now the facilities supervisor. And facilities supervisors work days. He walks through the space that Hargrove Capital Management occupied and that is now being refitted for a new tenant. The founder's room is being renovated. The long table is gone. The view of the city is the same. The glass wall is the same. The supply closet, adjacent to the conference room, the one he stood in on a Tuesday in October and cleaned while his phone recorded, is in the process of being upgraded. He walks through the space. He checks the renovation progress. He notes 3 things that need attention and makes arrangements for them. He is about to leave when one of the renovation workers, a young man, maybe 22, first job on a crew like this, asks him, "You know what was here before? What company?" Asset management, Walter says. What happened to them? Walter thinks about a Tuesday in October. About the south elevator being out. About the specific trajectory of 14 extra minutes. They got caught, he says. By who? Walter looks at the glass wall. He looks at the supply closet. Someone who was paying attention, he says. The young man nods and goes back to his work. Walter checks the last item on his list. He has a 10 o'clock meeting about the HVAC system on floors 30 through 35, which has been showing irregular pressure readings that one of his night shift cleaners, a woman named June, who knows the building well enough to notice when something is different, flagged in the maintenance log. He reads June's maintenance log entry on his way to the meeting. It is precise, specific, and exactly right. He makes a note to mention to June's supervisor, that she has the specific quality of attention that buildings require, and that is rarer than most people realize, and that should be recognized formally before someone else recognizes it first. 18 months after a Tuesday evening in October, the enforcement action against Gerald Whitmore and James Carter results in convictions on 11 counts. Gerald Whitmore is sentenced to 8 years. James Carter receives 3 years and full cooperation with the civil restitution process. The restitution totals approximately 94 cents on the dollar for the affected account holders. Not complete recovery, but the most comprehensive restitution achieved in a comparable enforcement action in the jurisdiction's history. Walter Briggs raids the press release at his desk in the facility's office on a Thursday morning. He sends the link to Maya. She sends back, "You did this." He types back, "I heard it." And Wasu built the case. The SEC prosecuted it. Drew noticed the HVSC. Ima, just the one who was in the hallway. Maya types, "Someone has to be in the hallway." Walter looks at his screen. He thinks about the south elevator. He thinks about 14 minutes. He thinks about 47,000 people who do not know his name, counting on money that is now more secure than it was. He puts the phone in his pocket. He has walked through at 11. The new tenant on 42 is moving in, new systems to test, new rhythms to learn. He takes the elevator up. He is always paying attention. He's always been. He just needed the building to be quiet enough to hear. Denise Briggs, Walter's wife, does not know about the award or the promotion or the case. Some days she knows Walter. Some days she knows he is someone who loves her. On those days, which are fewer than they used to be, and more than the doctors predicted, Walter sits beside her and holds her hand and does not need anything else to be true.